welcome back. This is What if Deku was Shirou Emiya, part 14. Been a minute since I've covered this series, so just gonna dive right back into it where we last left off. Deku and Ida just got back to school, and they were about to be heading off for training camp for a week. So let's get into it. So Ida and Deku, they're at school. They're about to board the bus. They have their bags and shit. And Deku, he's just like, alright. Him and Ida are sitting together because, the rest of the class, they don't really mess with Deku or Ida like that. Like, they're just now starting to get back into hanging with Deku and talking to him. And, they're just like, hey, man, like, so about all that stuff with Bakugo and all them, like, we're really sorry about that. We shouldn't have tried to put that on you. And Deku's just like, look, just don't bring it up anymore and we're good. I don't want to, think about it or none of that. We're going to go to this training camp. We're going to get stronger. And that's going to be that. And they're just like, all right. Yeah, we can respect that. And Ida's talking to Deku and he's like, man, I wonder who they're going to bring to, train you particularly. He's like, that's a good point. I don't even know who they'd even think about getting. He's like, Deku said he personally reached out to somebody for me, but I don't know who they could really get. And Deku's just like, oh well. And, either he's texting Luvia, they're flirting back and forth on the phone. And Deku, he's seeing that. And he's just smirking over there. He's just like, man, you were like a dog, man. He's just like, you're one to talk. Deku's like, you know what? You're right. And, Mineta, he's just around there perving on all the girls. And, Deku calls him out on that. He's like, man, leave these girls alone. They don't want nothing to do with you. And, Mineta he's just like, oh, shut up. I'm not taking advice from a virgin like you. And, Deku's just like, and what makes you think I'm a virgin? And Mineta's like, trust, dude, we're all virgins here. Like, what do you mean? And Deku's like, the rest of y'all might be, but I'm not. And Mineta, he's just like, what? And Ida even tells him, like, yeah, Emiya ain't no virgin. And all the girls' faces just go red, and all the guys, they're just back there on Deku, just like, yo, spill the details. Like, who did you do? And, they ask, what about Ida? And Ida's just like, yo. And the guys are just kind of putting it together, and like, wait, did you and Ida do it? And Ida's just like, oh, hell no. I know you're not trying to go that route. And they're just like, hey, man, how else would you know? And Ida's like, well, I'm living with him, but we ain't doing that shit. He has a girlfriend, and Mineta's just like, yo, show me the pictures. And Deku's just like, get your little pervy ass out of here before I bounce you like a basketball out this fucking bus. And everybody starts laughing at that remark. And his pride is hurt. And Deku straight up tells him, look, you keep perving on girls like that, you ain't ever gonna get a woman. Like, that shit's unattractive as fuck to women. And Mineta, he's just like, oh. And, they actually get there after that. Like, the rest of the trip is kind of just all gossip about Deku having sex. And, Deku's just like, man, the fuck is up with these people? And he just like, man, just Don't let it bother you. Come on. They're like, all right. They get out, and Deku tells Ida, I wouldn't stand too close to the edge. Ida's like, yep, way ahead of you. Because, Ida's prowess in this, it's a lot higher than it was or ever is in My Hero. And Ida, he's just like, yeah, I ain't letting this shit happen. They can sense that, someone's controlling the ground type of shit on there. Ida's like, look, I'm not going to be dropped. Like, I'll go down there when I'm good and ready, but I'm not getting dropped down there. And, the girl, she can tell that they gotten onto it. So she immediately just crushes the ground beneath their feet and they slide off there. But Deku and Ida, they jump back. They jump back to where the bus is. Because they ain't about to destroy the bus or send Aizawa floating down there with them. And, she's just like, wow, you two have some remarkably quick reflexes. And, she makes the observation like, it's almost like you two are used to battle. And Deku's like, well, we did have to fight villains at the USJ, so, And Ida's like, me and him do spar with each other pretty regularly, so, they're kind of impressed by that. And they're just like, well, then you should be able to make it there before all the other ones do. Ida's just like, what? It's like, oh yeah, you guys are hiking it all the way there, but you guys are going to have to defeat the monsters along the way. Deku uses his eyes and he sees all of the monsters that could really pose a problem to them. And he summons out his bow. And, the Pussycat dolls, they're just like, yo, where the fuck is this coming from? And Deku loads 10 arrows in his bow. He pulls it back and he fires them all. They're all going in different directions. And they hit 10 of them at once. And she's just like, he just took out 10 of them at once. Who is this kid? And he tells Ida, all right, let's jump on down. The other one shouldn't be too much of a worry. And Ida, he takes off running at full speed. And Deku uses acceleration to keep up. And they're running at their full speed. They're hitting the rest of those projections. And they pass everybody up. And they're just like, what in the hell? Like, they're fast as fuck, too. And they're the first two there. And, the ones that are actually there already, they're just like, oh, okay. If you're here already, then help make supper. And, Deku's like, you know what? All right, sure. So, he's making dinner with them, and, they're kind of... He's used to Deku's cooking, so he knows how to help Deku out. They make a fucking feast. And, the girls, they're impressed with Deku there. They're just like, damn, he knows how to cook too? Whoever his girlfriend is lucky as hell. And Deku's like, yeah, it'd be like that. And basically the rest of the day is just like them eating and stuff. But, while they're out there just making their way through the forest and stuff, back in the city, shit is happening. Like, shit's hitting the fan. And, Bakugo, while he's in jail right now, he does come across some people. And he's just not liking it. But he's keeping his head down low. He's not trying to be stupid in jail. But that's when the prison gets hit. And it gets hit hard. Like, Shigaraki, he hits the jail. And he's looking for Bakugo. He couldn't really give a fuck about anybody else. He's killing the guards, disintegrating them. Kirigiri's, teleporting them, different places. He gets to Bakugo, and he's like, well, hello there. We briefly met at the USJ, kind of, when you were attacking me. And, he offers Bakugo a deal. He's like, look, I can give you so much power that you'll be able to crush the guy who hurt you and got you expelled just because he didn't like you. He even had you arrested for good measure. Come with me. Be a villain with me. Help me change this world. And I'll give you power beyond your wildest dream. And Bakugo, he's just like, okay. He's like, I ain't got, much else to lose if I stay here. I'll be here until I'm like in my 40s. I'll go with you. It gives me a chance for some freedom. And you're offering me power. I'll join up with you. And Bakugo joins up with the League of Villains, and he's teleported to their hideout. Dobby, he's there because he did join up. Muscular, he's there with them. The only one that's really not there is Spinner. But you ask me, it's kind of like an okay thing. To, not have Spinner. But Toga, she's there. She was just there off a whim. But, Shigaraki promised her acceptance, so she's just there to be there now. And she sees Bakugo, and she thinks he's really cute. So, she tries to go and flirt with him. And Bakugo's just like, shut up. And Dobby's just like, hey now. I'd keep a cool head if I were you. And Shigaraki's like, that's enough. Nobody's gonna hurt him. Not until Master says what he wants done with him. And, Bakugo starts thinking, he knows that Kirishima and Kaminari, they got expelled too, and probably blacklisted. And he tells Shigaraki that, and he's just like, why should I care? And Bakugo basically tells him, well, if I get them to join, you'll have more people. And if you train them, who knows how powerful they'll become. And after all, they pretty much got a bone to pick with someone in the hero school too. Be more pawns for you to have. And Bakugo's not really looking at it like they're his friends or anything. He's just thinking like, if he helps get some people in here, he'll probably get more power than what he was already promised. And Shigaraki likes that idea, and he says, all right, go and recruit them then. If they get you to join, well, if you get them to join, I'll see what I can do about getting you even more power. And, all for one, he's listening in on this the entire time. And he speaks finally. He's like, yes, I know a man who can give you great power. He'll be able to enhance your quirk to its utmost potential and give you a stronger body. So, do we have a deal? And, Bakugo's just like, deal. And All for One's like, oh, one more thing. Tell me what their quirks are. And Bakugo tells him. One has an electricity type quirk, and the other one has a hardening quirk. And, All for One's got a evil grin on his face through the camera. He's just like, excellent, excellent. Once we get those guys at their full potential too, you three will form a powerful kill squad for us. And you'll be able to have your revenge. I guarantee it. And, that's when somebody else starts walking in there. And All for One's like, oh, my guests have arrived. And Shigaraki's like, Master, what guests? And he's like, meet the mages I've acquired a partnership with. And Shigaraki's like mages. And, he looks, and it's a blue-haired guy with glasses who's really just looks pissed off all the time. A slender, blonde-haired woman with a huge rack, and a short, lollious, red-haired girl. And he's like, this is a joke, right? And, he tries to kind of dispute that with all for one offer. Like, you don't trust my decision, why don't you try him? And, he says, Mr. Ainsworth, will that be acceptable? And he says, just call me Julian. And yeah, that's acceptable. You won't even be able to touch me. And, Shigaraki's like, you're a dead man. He rushes him, and Julian just uses his displacement magic and sends Shigaraki on the ground to in the air and falling on the ground. And I don't mean just like up towards the ceiling. No, he sends Shigaraki outside above the roof, falling through the roof to the ground to send a message. And he's just like, anyone else want to try? Nobody's really wanting to fuck with him. So he's just like, all right. So all for one, what's the plan? And he's like, well, for one, don't you want to go and visit, what was his name again? Julian says, Izuku Emiya. Bakugo twitches, and he's just like, hold on a minute, that bastard's mine to take down. Julian says, the way you are, you wouldn't even be able to last a second against him. Bakugo, he hates to admit it, but, Julian is right. And he's like, oh, so do you want to attack him now while they're at the training camp? And Julian's like, no. I have a way to make his life a bit more of a living hell. And he's just like, oh? And he's like, we'll still attack him at the training camp. Well, your team will. However, my team, we're going to take something precious from him. And that's how we're going to lure him into a fight on our terms. And I'm sure he'll get the message that we say hello. And he's all for one is grinning, and he says, do what you want. And he asks, when do you want to start this attack? And Julian says, we're going to start ours tonight. You guys, however, start 3 days. Well, no, not 3. Let's see. If we assume news will travel to him within a day, tomorrow night you guys can attack him. I suggest you send a lot of strong people. Oh, and it would be a pretty good time to do some of the trimming the fat while you're there, if you know what I mean. And all for one's grinning, and he's just like, yes, I know exactly what you mean. And, Shigaraki's like, why are you working with someone like that? And, it's like, you should be able to take his power and be done with him. And that's where All For One tells him, I can't take his power. Shigaraki's like, what? He's like, he's a mage. Quirks and magecraft don't mix together at all. They're toxic to each other. And besides, his is biologically bonded to his body. using magic circuits. I can't use those. It would destroy my body. And neither can you. And Shigaraki's just like, huh. So magic is different from quirks. Interesting. And that night gets there, and after Deku, he gets done eating, he meets his trainer. And she walks up to Deku, and she's just like, long time no see, Emiya. Deku recognizes that voice, and he freaks the fuck out. He's just like, Miss Lorley. And she's just like, oh, you remember me. The head of the clock tower. The director of it, in fact. And he's just like, what are you doing here? She's just like, I'm here to train you, obviously. And, nobody has ever seen Deku that scared, but he is scared of her because of how strict she is on him. And, she's just like, I can tell you've changed a lot. And you're going to be explaining it to me all tonight. So come with me back to my room now. And Mineta, he just sees a woman pulling Deku to her room. And he's just like, what the fuck? How is he pulling all these women? And that's when all the guys just, say, dude, you're thinking the wrong way this time. So while they're talking, Deku's explaining everything that happened up to this point. I'm really not going to touch on that conversation. Flashback over to Julian. He's right outside of Deku's home, where Luvia, Sakura, and Tosaka are. Oh yeah, it's happening. Angelica, she transforms, equips the Gilgamesh card. And, the red-haired girl equips the Berserker card of Thor. And they just bombard the place, just destroy his house in one hit. And, Tosaka's in a state of shock, and she's like, what in the hell? And so is, Luvia. She's just, so confused. And she's in shock, but she did cover and protect Sakura. So, because Sakura, she's knocked out. And, at basically this point, Luvia, she's hurt. She's badly hurt. She can barely, keep her mana up. And, the one with the Thor, she just throws a thunder shock right at him. And, they think that they killed Luvia. And Angelica's asking Julian, should we take Sakura with us? He's like, no, not yet. We'll get her when we're ready. Besides, that old man Mato still has to groom her a bit more before she's a proper vessel. Just take Tosaka with us. And she's like, why Tosaka? And he says, 'cause if we take Tosaka, Emiya will come running. So, take her. Angelica says, as you wish. And they kidnap Rin. Emergency services, they arrive minutes later. And at this point, Tosaka's gone. Julian and them, they've disappeared somewhere. No trace. Luvia's admitted into the hospital with life-threatening injuries and wounds. Like, she has a huge piece of wood just stuck right into her stomach. And Sakura, she's admitted into the hospital with minor lacerations and bruises. And, Ida and Deku don't get any news of this. Not yet. And, they start their training. It's the next day. They're training, and Deku, he's going through severe magic circuit training. Like, he's having to hold his magic and use the most of it he can all throughout his body to strengthen all of his magic circuits at once. And, it's basically hell for him. Because he's having to do projection after projection after projection. Not even using any of them, just doing it to increase his magic circuit and the speed at which he can use the projections. Then he does body strengthening workouts where she would basically hit him full force with her magic into his body to strengthen it. And he's taking it all day. While he's doing projections, she's hitting him. And then she tells him when he's wore out, alright, last thing of the day, make the shield. And Deku's like, alright. He sticks out his left arm, and he says, I am the bone of my sword. Ro, Iris. And the shield pops up, and Lorelli, she runs over there and uses her most powerful magic to hit the shield. It cracks, but it does not break. And she says, alright, that'll do. I'm very impressed with how durable that shield is that you created. And Deku just lets it go and he falls to his knees exhausted. And she's like, alright, hit the shower, get something to eat, rest up for the day. So Deku, he's going over there and he runs into Ida. Him and Ida, they hit the showers. They're just chilling in the hot spring. And, they're relaxing. And, Deku, he does notice, Koga, but, he don't really talk to Koga like that. But he does notice that Koga does disappear a lot, and he does bring that to the Pussycat Dolls, because, Koga is like family to them and is family to some of them. And, basically they tell Deku about what happened, and Deku, after he eats, he goes over there to try and find Koga. And he's sitting there and he's telling him, like, you're kind of like the opposite of me here, kid. And Koga's like, oh, then why are you wasting your time? And Deku's like, I didn't say I was wasting my time. I just said you were my opposite. See, my dad wasn't a hero, but he wanted to be with all his heart. That's what drove me to be a hero. That's why I don't want to have to sacrifice anybody to save people. But you're the opposite. You hate heroes with everything in your body because your parents died as heroes. And, Koga's like, yeah, and my parents are dead. Yours are probably still alive. And Deku's like, no, they're dead. My mom's dead. My dad's dead. Sister's dead. I have no family left whatsoever. And Koga, he's kind of hit hard by that. He's just like, oh. And Deku's like, it's cool though, because I get to make sure that doesn't happen to other people's families as a hero. That's why I'm doing all this. And Koga, he's relating to Deku more and more. And, Koga, he's just like, so you're just trying to stop that from happening to anyone else, right? And Deku's like, yeah. I don't want any other kid to have to grow up without their parents in this world. That alone makes Koga not hate Deku, but he's still gonna take some time to get used to. But all of a sudden, Deku just grabs Koga and throws him. And Koga's like, what the hell? And then he notices Deku just got hit with a fucking giant fist and got sent back a few feet. And Koga's just scared and he's just like, is that? And Deku's like, it's a villain. Run. Get out of here now. Go alert the others. And Koga, he's too scared to even move. And Muscular, he's just like, you actually took my head on. I guess they were right about you. You're pretty damn strong. And Deku's just like, who was right about me? Muscular just tells him, the Ainsworth and the League of Villains. Oh, you haven't heard yet. Yeah, the Ainsworth family completely blew your house to hell, and they kidnapped some bitch named Tosaka. I guess that's what her name was. So they said that she was someone important to you after all. Deku, he hears this and he's pissed. Like, he lost all sense of reason right then and there. He doesn't even care at this point. He draws his swords and he charges straight at Muscular. Muscular, he tries to punch Deku, not working. Deku uses Overgrowth and slashes Muscular's arm straight off, like straight through the bone and all. And Muscular's screaming, and he's like saying that his arm just got sliced clean off. And that's putting the fear into Muscular. And he's looking at this and he's just like, what in the hell? And Deku raises his voice at Koga and he says, I thought I told you to get the fuck out of here. Now go. And Koga's like, yes, sir. He takes off running. And Deku, he notices that when Koga's pretty much out of earshot range, he points his sword straight for Muscular's throat. And he tells him, you're going to tell me everything, or you won't live to see another day. I can stop you from bleeding out of your arm, or I can just slice your head off right now. Your choice. And Lorelli, she shows up, like, she can sense Deku using his magic, and she rushes to the scene. She finds Koga, and Koga tells her what happened, and she says, okay, she summons up like a couple golems for protection, and to watch Koga, she rushes towards Deku, and she gets there right as Deku's, stabbing into Muscular with his sword again. Not in a lethal way, or not chopping off another limb, but just stabbing it into him to try and get him to talk. Like, Deku is straight up torturing Muscular at this point. And Lorelli yells at Deku to stop, and he's just like, if you knew what was going on, you'd want him dead too. And she's like, then tell me what's going on. And Deku tells her, how about this? He's with the Ainsworths. People trying to start another Holy Grail war. They blew up my house, apparently, and they kidnapped Rin Tosaka. And literally hears that, and she's calling, Luvius out, and she doesn't get an answer. And the worst type of feeling sinks into her stomach as she asks her familiars to go and find out what's going on. And she heals Muscular's wound, like stopping the bleeding. And she says to Deku, she'll get the information out of Muscular. He needs to go and protect the other students. Because just as he says that, there's an announcement that villains are attacking all of the students. And in this timeline, Class 1B, they haven't arrived yet. Like, they got there several days later. This is just happening 2 days in to the training camp. Like, this was the actual first day of training, so yeah. It's just Class 1A right now. And it is true that most of them are at the lodging. There's none of them really stretched out to the forest. So Deku, he's racing straight back. He uses acceleration at top speed. And Toga can kind of see something coming at them. And, twice he creates a double ganger and pulls Toga right down right before Deku does a slash straight across and just decapitates twice his clone. And it's turned into mud. And Twice is just like, oh shit. And Toga looks at Twice and she's like, thanks. You know? And, they regroup and they realize this is the guy. So they're all just trying to take out Deku, and Ida, he jumps into the fight using reciprocal burst, and he kicks the hell out of Mr. Compress. And they get sent flying. Like, Mr. Compress gets knocked the fuck out. He's out of commission. And, Dabi, he's over there. He's about to set fire to the whole place. Until Shoto, he sends ice all around the place, creating an ice wall. Dabi, he's looking at, Shoto, and he's just like, well, look at you, Mr. Half and Half. Someone who's supposed to be groomed to be the next #1 hero, I hear. And, Dabi's basically just taunting Shoto at this point. And that's when, Dabi, he's getting ready to send out a barrel of blue fire. Todoroki, he sends out fire right back. But he can't match Dabi. Oh, there's no way in hell he's matching Dabi. So what he does is he sends out ice to intercept it before it gets to him. Before his own fire is blown back. And that cannibal tooth dude looking motherfucker, he's trying shit, but, Deku ain't fucking around. Like, Deku straight up just, slashes him across the stomach and, dude falls in pain. Deku, he's not doing lethal blows, but he is cutting them in places to where one is a warning and the other ones are at their tendons. And this is the first time they're really seeing Deku fight seriously. And they're surprised to see how well him and Ida actually fight together. And, Deku, he sees something coming straight at them. And he pulls Ida back. He's just like, whoa, wait. And that's when he sees, the swords hit the ice and shatter it like glass. He recognizes those swords and he's like, Gilgamesh. And he's just like, what? No way. Gilgamesh is supposed to be dead. You killed him. And everyone's just like, wait, he killed who? And Deku's like, I didn't kill him. He wasn't even alive to begin with. And they're like, what is a Gilgamesh? And, Deku just says, think of a robot that's very deadly. And they're just like, oh, okay. And he looks at Ida, he's like, you're about to just give everything away. And, Aizawa tells the rest of them, everyone except for Emiya and Ida to get back. Only him, Ida, and Emiya can handle the situation. And they're like, what's so special about them? And Aizawa tells them, they've been given special permission to go out at night and actually fight crime in the streets. They have more experience than any of you. So, get back. And they're just like, what? Even Shoto's kind of just like, yo, how the fuck did they get that permission? And Aizawa says, don't worry about it. Just go. And that's when, Lorelli comes back and she's like, I've got the information. And Angelica appears. And she's just like, no fucks given. She's trying to kill. But then she sees they're getting outnumbered pretty badly now. So she takes everybody that's still conscious back. Which is like basically everybody that escaped in canon did, except for Mr. Compress, because he got knocked the fuck out by Ida. So the rest of them are arrested. Muscular, he's lost an arm. And Cannibal Dude, nearly dead at this point. So they cancel training camp, and everybody is sent back. And that's when Ida finds out Luvia is in the hospital with life-threatening wounds. And Lorelli, she knows this, and she's heading straight to the hospital, and Ida says he's coming too. And Lorelli's like, what even is your relationship with Luvia? And Ida tells her, that's my fucking girl. I'm coming too. I don't give a fuck who you are or your position. I care for her. I'm going. And she tells Deku, alright, you're coming too. So that way I can keep an eye on you and you don't do anything stupid and reckless. So they go to the hospital and they're just there waiting. And that's where I'm leaving it off for today. Let me know what you guys think about this part. Comment down below. And subscribe if you're new. Catch you guys later.